So far this year, we've already seen future Hall of Famers like Damian Lillard, James Harden, and Chris Paul change teams. But what if I told you they're not even the best players that were on the trade block? That's right. Franchise cornerstones, potential MVP candidates, NBA champions, and even NBA record holders will be on the move this year. Will your favorite team trade away their best player, or will your team trade for the first player on this list who was seen as untouchable in the beginning of October, but now he's the best player on the trade block? Before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Leading up to the season, I spammed predictions at you guys consistently. Michael Porter Jr. needed over 5.5 rebounds in his season debut. Tyreek Hill just needed a touchdown, and Steph Curry just needed 1 point. Shout out to those that tailed. For those of you guys that were able to make money, we're giving away our picks for free all season long for the NBA and NFL on my Instagram at TheFlightMike. And right now, when you use promo code microphone on PrizePicks, they'll match your deposit up until $100. Thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? After the end of the 2022 to 2023 season, which saw the Cleveland Cavaliers win 50 plus games for the first time since the LeBron James era, nobody would have ever expected first team all NBA guard Donovan Mitchell to be on the trade block. However, after the Cleveland Cavaliers' slow start to the 2023 season and Mitchell's public hesitancy to signing a long-term contract with the Cavaliers, many have speculated that if the Cavs keep spiraling, it would be better for both parties to move on. For Donovan Mitchell, he's made it very clear that he loves to win, and in his most recent successful season, he was bounced out in the first round by his hometown New York Knicks. As for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Mitchell becomes an unrestricted free agent at the end of next season, and it might benefit them to recoup some picks now rather than losing him for nothing after 2025. Mitchell has been linked to teams like the Knicks and Sixers, but nothing is concrete so far. What is concrete, however, is the fact that Zach LaVine's love for Chicago has completely faded. Okay, that might not be entirely true. I'm sure Zach LaVine loves Chicago, but the Bulls, that's another story. After back-to-back seasons where Chicago won 40 or more games, the Chicago Bulls have regressed to the point where they're near last in every statistical category. Longtime Bull Zach LaVine has been at the center of trade talks, seeing as he is nearly 30 years old, and trading the star two guard could help set up the struggling organization for the rest of the decade. In the past, LaVine has stood strong that he wants to play for the Bulls, but lately things have changed. When asked about if he wants to play elsewhere, instead of giving a simple no like he has in the past, LaVine replied, "If we need to talk about that at a time, right now is not that time to really talk about that." It's clear that Zach LaVine wants out of Chicago. As for the next player on this list, if he gets traded, he'll need to quite literally get dragged out of Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns is one of just 4 players to ever play 500 or more games for the Minnesota Timberwolves, becoming the first player since Kevin Garnett to do so. It's clear that Towns loves Minnesota and Minnesota loves Towns. However, basketball is a business, and if breaking things off with Karl Anthony Towns could lead to a better Timberwolves team, then the front office won't hesitate to pull the trigger. Despite some saying that the Cat trade rumors are overblown, there is rationale for potentially moving the former All-NBA center. Karl Anthony Towns is set to start his 4-year, $222 million contract next season, meaning he'll get paid nearly $50 million a year until 2025, and $60 million from 2026 onward. That's a lot of money for a nearly 30-year-old center to be the second option behind the clear franchise cornerstone, Anthony Edwards. Because of this, it won't take as many assets as it would have pre-contract signing to trade for Karl Anthony Towns, and teams like the New York Knicks and Miami Heat could be very well open to acquiring Towns. And if Cat isn't available, well, DeMar DeRozan sure as hell is. DeMar DeRozan is the perfect trade candidate for a team looking to make a mid-season move in order to make a playoff push. Despite the fact that DeRozan is in his age 34 season, he still is an extremely solid offensive forward with defensive upside. DeMar is in the final year of his contract, and seeing as the soon-to-be rebuilding Bulls probably won't include a soon-to-be 35-year-old in their future plans, that leaves the only option of trading DeRozan for the best package available. Even though DeMar would like to sign a contract extension with the team that trades for him, it's unlikely any team would be willing to give a 34-year-old a long-term contract. Because of this, don't be surprised if the team that acquires DeRozan doesn't re-sign him. Two teams that have been floated around for DeMar tomorrow would be the Los Angeles Lakers, or more likely the Philadelphia 76ers. But if the Sixers do make a trade, a solid consolation prize for another team could be the next player on this list, which I'll admit even makes me uncomfortable to talk about. After averaging 20 plus points while shooting at a 40% clip from beyond the arc for 6 out of the last 7 seasons, Klay Thompson currently finds himself in a rut, averaging 15 points per game, shooting a career low 36% from 3. Oh yeah, and he's currently getting paid $43 million to do so. Thompson finds himself nearing his mid-30s on the last year of his contract and is having the worst year of his career, which is the perfect recipe for a trade. A team looking to acquire Thompson is hoping a change of scenery can help spark what is clearly inside of him. And Klay is probably hoping the same, as the next contract he signs this offseason will likely be one of his last deals. Thompson wouldn't be your average trade candidate, but according to Brian Scalabrine, teams have been calling about the veteran shooting guard for weeks now. However, the Warriors' loyalty to the 4-time champion could be killing trade talks. But that isn't the same for his former teammate, which is the next player on this list, who was just traded a few months ago and has his team openly shopping him not even 20 games into his time with the franchise. The Washington Wizards traded for Jordan Poole this offseason, not even 20 games into his tenure with the team, and we're already hearing reports from NBC Sports saying that the Washington Wizards view Jordan Poole as a trade piece, not a franchise guy. You may be thinking, how's this possible only after a handful of games? But when you take into account that Poole is taking more shots than he ever has in his career and still isn't reaching the scoring heights he's reached with Golden State, it makes you wonder if Poole might have regressed. Well, no, he didn't regress. We were just seeing what he plays like without an all-star filled roster backing his every move. Poole is now the 1 or 2 option on the Wizards depending on who you ask, and so far he simply hasn't fulfilled the role that the Wizards hoped he would. Since Poole has just been traded and is now being shopped around again, it's hard to determine where he could end up, unlike the next player who has been in trade conversations for years now. Pascal Siakam, otherwise known as Spicy P, is a fan favorite for the Toronto Raptors. However, after a slow start for the Raptors and facing the possibility of potentially missing the playoffs again, and add on the fact that the Raptors seem to be hesitant about giving the soon-to-be 30-year-old a long-term contract, all arrows are pointing to Siakam leaving Toronto by the trade deadline. The Raptors are in full rebuild mode, seeing as they have a young core to build around, but not a part of the young core is the 29-year-old Siakam, who is currently on an expiring contract. Siakam would be the perfect sign-and trade for potential playoff teams who believe they're 1 or 2 pieces away from being a contender, and among those teams are the Atlanta Hawks, Sacramento Kings, and even, you guessed it, the New York Knicks. Any team looking to acquire Siakam better be ready to give up a significant amount of draft capital, unlike the next player on this list who could help a contender in exchange for cheap assets. When Buddy Hield was traded to the Indiana Pacers during the 2021 season, many people were saying that Hield would be a key factor in the Pacers' return to the playoffs. However, just a few years later, and the Pacers are a solid 9-5 to start the 2023 season, but it's hardly due to Buddy Hield and the $18 million they're paying him to play just 24.5 minutes a game, the lowest of his career since 2016. The Pacers could make the move to get rid of Hield in his expiring contract, since he seems to not be in the team's future plans. And not only this, they could potentially get even better while moving an expiring asset, a move that all general managers love making. A team that could heavily benefit from acquiring Hield, who's currently shooting an incredible 43% from 3, are the Los Angeles Lakers, who are in dire need of a guard who can shoot the 3 ball, as they rank just 25th in the NBA in 3-point percentage. And don't be shocked if they acquire the next player on this list as well, as OG Anunoby is the perfect player to build a franchise around. He's got great defense, is a solid offensive threat, and can shoot the 3 ball at an elite percentage. So why is he on the trade block? Well, he isn't exactly being shopped around. However, so many teams have reached out to Toronto in an attempt to acquire Anunoby, it just appears like he is. The best comparison I could draw for a player like OG Anunoby would be Mikal Bridges when he was on the Phoenix Suns, who would get a similar price as Mikal Bridges, which is rumored to be around 3 or 4 first-round picks. Although OG Anunoby is likely to decline his player option this offseason, any player who trades for Anunoby would be happy to extend him long-term, making him the dream trade target for many young contending teams. Which brings us to the final player on this list, who might not be young, but still would be welcome to any contending team. Before we get to him, let me know in the comment section down below if there's a player that we missed on this list, and we could add him to our next one. But with that being said, defensive specialist Alex Caruso is yet another Chicago Bull on this list, and if it isn't clear yet, the Bulls are attempting to clean house before the trade deadline in order to open up as much cap space as possible while also adding draft assets. Caruso Caruso's defense is top tier, and trading for him wouldn't be nearly as difficult as other defensive players on this list, so he would be a perfect fit for contending teams with struggling defense. Some of those teams include the Indiana Pacers, the Atlanta Hawks, and even the Dallas Mavericks, all of which rank in the bottom half of the NBA in team defensive rating. Alex Caruso is likely to be traded, but if you think there are any other superstars who could be traded at the deadline, comment down below. Was this list too unrealistic, or was it spot on? Who's one player that you would like your favorite team to trade for? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.